All right, today we're going to take notes on two kinds of cells. So you need to have your notebook out and something to write with. And make sure that you can go ahead and pause at any time you want just to take the time to write your notes. And you can go back and forth if you need to. So go ahead and title this two kinds of cells. You should see this chart here in front of you. You need to copy this. This is comparing and contrasting prokaryotic cells versus eukaryotic cells. You know, we've done this before, but here's more detail. You can see it's a lot more detail. So prokaryotic cells come from the kingdom bacteria and archaea, whereas eukaryotic cells come from the kingdom plants, animals, fungi, and protists. This we should know, and this I think we have noted in our notes before, but here it is again. It's going to be on this next unit's test as well. One thing that both cells have in common is that they all have a cell membrane. All cells have a cell membrane, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. We'll talk more about what a cell membrane is, but a cell membrane basically is on the outside of the cell. It's like the covering outside of it. Both prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells have DNA. DNA is the genetic material. Here's where they are different. Those first three, where they're the same, well, they both have a cell membrane and DNA, but now prokaryotic cells have no membrane-bound organelles. We'll talk about what organelles are. Things like nuclei, mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, vesicles. Those kinds of things are not found in prokaryotic cells. However, eukaryotic cells do have membrane-bound organelles. Another difference that we already know is that prokaryotic cells have no nucleus, whereas eukaryotic cells do have a nucleus. So in prokaryotic cells, they have DNA. It's just freely floating in the cell. In the eukaryotic cells, the DNA is inside of a nucleus. All prokaryotic cells are single-celled, which we call unicellular. Eukaryotic cells might be single-celled. Most of them are multi-celled. Like plants, animals, and most fungi are multi-celled. Some fungi and most protists are single-celled. The prokaryotic cells are very small. The eukaryotic cells are usually much larger than the prokaryotic cells. We saw some of that last week when we looked at that scale. Some things were a lot smaller than others, including cells. Okay, so go ahead and copy this chart down before you move on. If you're not finished, go ahead and click pause and move to the next slide here. All cells. So underneath your chart, go ahead and write all cells, ... And there's three things they all do. All cells grow. They get bigger. If they didn't get bigger, well, let's say they divide too. So if they divided and didn't get bigger, then they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. See if I can show you that. So if we have a cell and it divided and didn't grow, then the next, it would divide into two cells that are half the size. And if those divided and didn't grow, each one of those would divide into two cells that are half the size. If that kept happening, then we're going to end up with, you know, tiny, getting to really small until they're hardly even visible. Okay, so they have to grow and then they divide, and also they use energy. All those organelles that are in the cell use energy. When they divide, they use energy. All those chemical processes that happen inside of the cell use energy, and that energy we'll learn later, is in this form called ATP. That's a chemical. All right, one last slide for you. All cells have ... All cells have a cell membrane and cytoplasm. We talked about the cell membrane being the outside of the cell. It surrounds the cell. The cytoplasm is this gooey stuff inside the cell that keeps the cell three-dimensional, keeps it round, keeps it from flattening out. All the organelles basically like swim around in the cytoplasm. All cells have a cell membrane, and so here's your definition of the cell membrane. You can add this definition to your vocabulary section. The protective layer that covers the cell surface, and it acts as a barrier. So it keeps some things in and keeps some things out, but it lets some things come in and it lets some things go out. The cytoplasm, go ahead and put this definition in your vocabulary section as well. The fluid part of the cell. All cells have organelles. After you write, so you're going to put, I'll color code this for you in case you can't do it. Okay, you're going to put this sentence or this bullet point in your notes. This bullet point in your notes. You're going to put these definitions in your vocab. You're also going to have to write the word organelles again. And you're going to have to put this definition in your vocab. This is organelles. Go ahead and type three messages. Write organelles and their structures that perform specific functions within the cell. Genetic material. Put this into your notes. And I don't know if we have DNA in our vocabulary, but DNA is the genetic material. Go into that definition in your vocab section. So you have 4 definitions: cell membrane, cytoplasm, organelle, and DNA. There's 3 things that all cells have. They have cell membrane and cytoplasm, organelles, and genetic material. One more definition: nucleus. Also with your vocab. The nucleus is the organelle that contains the DNA. Okay? Go ahead and make sure you got all of your notes, and please be reviewing your notes.